As they continued closer to the ancient ruins, the oppressive atmosphere of Shimmerwood seemed to lift. The air inside the boundaries of the ruins felt almost protective, like a barrier against the darkness outside. Astra hovered close to Kaelin, her light casting gentle patterns on the moss-covered stones, while Lyria walked a step behind, casting nervous glances at the crumbling walls. Finally, Kaelin broke the silence. "I suppose it's about time for proper introductions. I'd like to know who's been risking her life for me." Lyria met his gaze, her expression guarded. "Lyria? And yes, I've crossed these ruins before," she replied, her tone steady. She refrained from admitting that she'd always kept her distance, sensing the repulsion of her own dark magic against the ruins' protective aura. Astra's glow brightened. "I am Astra, Kaelin's dragon spirit and companion. This place feels different, almost like home." Lyria nodded slowly, glancing uneasily at the stones. As they ventured deeper, a sudden shift in the air caught their attention, the distant, chilling sounds of creatures moving through the forest. Dark shadows surged through the trees, masses of shadowed beasts racing through the undergrowth. Lyria stiffened, her eyes narrowing. "The Wraith," she muttered. "It takes immense power for him to deploy that many creatures at once. He must be gearing up for something massive." Kaelin turned, catching her slip. "You seem to know a lot about the Obsidian Wraith, more than you've let on." Lyria hesitated, her gaze falling to the ground. After a moment she said, "I was once aligned with his cause." Her voice dropped, shadows of regret in her eyes. "I took something from Emberfall, something powerful, and gave it to him. I thought it was what I wanted, but I was wrong." Astra's light flickered with a quiet understanding, but Kaelin pressed for more, his tone urgent. "Why are you here now, helping us?" Lyria's voice softened, almost a whisper. "Because I know what he's capable of, and I know the cost of his power." They walked in silence, Kaelin processing her words, but as they neared the entrance of the ruins, Lyria's steps faltered. An invisible force seemed to pulse against her, sending chills through her bones, warning her to turn back. Her dark magic recoiled, almost as if it feared the very essence of this place, but she forced herself forward, clenching her fists to push past the resistance. She couldn't turn back now. The Wraith had felt her presence aiding Kaelin. Retreating wasn't an option. At last, they entered through the archway of the ruins. The air felt thick with magic, ancient and sacred. Just as Kaelin took a step forward, a transparent barrier shimmered to life around Lyria, enclosing her in a clear prison. She recoiled, her eyes wide in shock as she tested the barrier, her hands pressing against its invisible walls. "What is this?" she demanded, panic edging her voice. Kaelin rushed toward her, his hand reaching for his magic, but he felt nothing. His powers felt distant, muted, as if the magic had slipped from his grasp entirely. I can't feel my magic," he exclaimed, his heart racing. Just then a figure appeared, his form shimmering with an ethereal glow. He was an ancient elder mage, his robes bearing intricate symbols that glowed faintly. His face held the wisdom of centuries, and his presence radiated authority. "Welcome," he said, his voice resonant and calm. "I am Erendor, the guardian of this sanctuary." Astra's light brightened, and she dipped in reverence. Kaelin mirrored her, though his gaze kept darting to Lyria, trapped within the magical prison. "Please," he pleaded, "let her out." Erendor's gaze settled on Lyria, and his expression grew solemn. "Dark magic is not welcome within these walls. The essence of this place repels all that is corrupted, for it was designed to preserve the light and protect the sanctity of the dragon spirits." He looked to Kaelin. "I cannot remove her magic, but I can contain the threat." Lyria's expression shifted to one of defiance. "So I'm a prisoner then?" Erendor shook his head. "You may choose to stay or leave, but the barrier will limit where you can tread. It is for your protection as much as ours. Your magic will not have a chance to harm us here. If you cannot abide these terms, then you may leave." Lyria hesitated, glancing between Kaelin and the shimmering walls. I'll stay," she said finally, her voice tense. "Just let me be of use." Arandor turned to Kaelin, his eyes filled with a quiet intensity. "You have been allowed entry here for a purpose. Only those chosen by a dragon spirit may enter this place, for this is a sanctuary, a training ground where time itself bends to the will of those who seek true mastery." He extended his hand, and a faint glow filled the chamber, illuminating symbols carved into the walls. Here, 1 year within these walls is but a week in the outside world. Kaelin's eyes widened in wonder, his mind racing at the possibilities. "You mean I could train here for as long as it takes?" "Yes," Arandor replied. "We will guide you, Kaelin, to reach the fullest extent of your powers. It will be 3 full years of intense mental and physical training. But know this, the Obsidian Wraith himself was once trained here, his strength molded within these same walls." The weight of Arandor's words settled heavily on Kaelin. He knew what this opportunity meant, the chance to unlock his potential, to gain the strength needed to defeat the Wraith. But 3 years, it would take 3 years to complete his training. In the outside world, only 3 weeks would pass, but Arandor's gaze held a somber truth. "By the time you emerge," Arandor said, his voice low, "Emberfall will have fallen." Kaelin's heart pounded as he looked at Astra, then at Lyria, her expression unreadable behind the barrier. He knew what he was being asked to sacrifice, Emberfall's safety, in exchange for the power to defeat the Wraith. The choice loomed before him, daunting and impossible: stay and fulfill his destiny, or abandon his training to help defend the city. The fate of Emberfall rested on his decision,